大家好，欢迎大家收看安娜看法节目。虽然说我们加州政府出台的禁令和行政令在火灾之后在市场稳定和消费者的保护方面起到了作用，但是呢，对于火灾受灾者来说最关键的还是能够获得具体的支持和帮助。比如说，该怎么申请房产税的减免呢？重建房屋到底需要注意什么？有哪些组织可以真正的帮到自己？今天我们继续请安娜律师为大家解答这些非常实际的问题。Hi, Anna. Good to have you here again.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
安娜律师我想请问一下您，在火灾当中有很多朋友失去了住宅有什么情况呢？在什么样的情况之下呢，房产的所有者可以申请房产税的抵免呢？Anna, under what circumstances can property owners apply for property tax relief?
So there are two circumstances, essentially. One circumstance has to do specifically with the properties that are destroyed by a disaster. It's called calamity relief, disaster and calamity relief. This applies if the property lost more than $10,000 in value. I would suggest checking the details on the website of the LA County Tax Assessor's Office and also consulting with an attorney, right? I'm not here giving this legal advice. I'm not an expert on the topic. So whenever you go to fill out an application, please consult with an attorney who is an expert in this area. But I'm just now bringing this information because I know that some people might not be aware of it, right? So it's called Calamity Relief, and the applications can be filled out within 12 months from the date of the damage or when the destruction occurred. And like I said, the loss has to exceed $10,000. Now, the important thing to remember is that property taxes for the year are still due. So what's going to happen if you apply for this relief and if you're granted is you're going to be granted and then the county will issue a refund. But it's important to remember that the regular property taxes are still due this year, so don't skip on paying them. Okay, do your very best. So there's this property damage destroyed by misfortune or calamity. There's a special form to fill out. But again, like I said, please consult an attorney specifically for your case. And then a second type of a disaster relief, I believe it applies to properties that may not have been damaged up to $10,000, but the property value still went down. And that is a regular decline in value review. That is basically if the property has been assessed to be of certain market value, but you feel that for some reason the value has declined, maybe because everything around got destroyed, right? Your property is still standing, but the area definitely does not have the same value, and you're not going to be, if it's a business property, it's not going to be bringing the same business. So it's a regular decline in value review, and it's usually done, like the filing period for this type of relief is from July 2nd through November 30th, right? So there's plenty of time to prepare documentation and do that, right? So this is for somebody whose property may not have necessarily been actually damaged and destroyed, but the value has gone down. And again, I very much suggest consulting with an attorney regarding your specific property because it's very fact specific.
好，非常感谢安娜律师给我们介绍这个可以申请的一个方式我还想请问一下，可以申请房产税的减免的流程具体到底是怎么样的呢？大家需要注意哪些事项呢？Anna, what is the process to apply for this relief and what should they be aware of?
Right. So like I said, it's very fact specific for every type of relief. The process of applying is essentially filling out the forms, and the forms can be obtained from the LA County Assessor's Tax Assessor's website. I would absolutely recommend having a specialist in this area help you fill out the forms and provide the documentation. And as far as the process goes, like I said, filling out the forms during the specific periods of time. If the property has been damaged by a disaster or calamity and the damage is more than $10,000, then 12 months from the date of the damage, right? This needs to be submitted. And according to the website, the form is ADS-820. Again, not legal advice. I'm just reading from the website. Okay, and then if it's a decline in value review, not necessarily the property is destroyed, but something caused a large decline in value, then the application period is July 2nd through November 30th. And you put in your application, and then the county starts taking a look at it. The process can be actually quite lengthy, could take months, sometimes it takes a year. There may be a hearing involved, an administrative hearing, not a court hearing. So it's something to be prepared for, and the assessor might also request additional documentation. So I would recommend making sure that you have the current address or current email address, contact information, monitor all the communications to make sure that all the questions are answered properly and you get your hearing notifications.
好，非常感谢安娜律师的介绍啊。如果说想要重建被毁的房屋的话，第一步到底应该做什么呢？If someone wants to rebuild their home, so what is the first step, Anna?
I would say the first step is to consult with a specialist always,
嗯
because sometimes it's worth it, sometimes it's not worth it, right? You might not necessarily spend a whole lot of time and money on this process. I would suggest another step is to obtain documentation of the damage or of the property value decline. So always document, document, document. It's not enough to just write a declaration. You really want to have some paperwork.
好，非常感谢安娜律师的介绍啊。还有一个问题想请问您的是，那需要优先申请哪些许可证吗？有没有什么时间的限制，或者说特别的规定需要注意的呢？Anna, are there any permits they should get right away? And is there any deadline or specific rule to watch out for?
Permits. So when it comes to permits, not necessarily speaking of the tax relief, I am really talking right now about permits for rebuilding and reconstructing the property. The LA County and the city of Los Angeles and also California as well as a state have moved to expedite the permitting process.
嗯
Right, expedite and ease it to make sure that people can rebuild quickly. Now, the things to remember here, and I'm going to read some of it because, like I said, again, it's not legal advice. It's literally the things I'm getting from the California government, right? So some of the reviews have been waived. Some of the reviews that have been taking a lot of time, waiving the discretionary panel reviews for rebuilding. Something to remember is that this process of obtaining the permits a lot easier is limited to the like-for-like rebuilding. So the owners are not supposed to suddenly build a palace where they had a tiny home, right? That's not going to apply. It's supposed to be a structure that is sufficiently similar to what's been there before. And I believe the increase is the permitted increase in size is not more than 10%. But again, I urge you to double check specifically to your cities, to your municipality, because they might have their own requirements and their own rules. Okay, so it's like for like, it has to be sufficiently similar, like I said. And then the third requirement is also LA County and the city of Los Angeles are committed to helping people clear up their property. And so they're trying to arrange for expedited removal of debris and removal of all kinds of hazards. I am not sure if there is right now a mechanism to actually enforce that for as far as the citizens are concerned. So it is something that's been announced as an aspirational goal, essentially, but I'm not sure exactly how it's going to be implemented. But hopefully, if you call to get the fire debris and the damaged debris removed, the government will do it much faster compared to what we've been seeing before.
好，非常感谢安娜律师给我们介绍的非常的详细啊。还想请问的是，有没有一些专门可以帮助灾后恢复的组织呢？受灾者到底怎么样才能够找到这些资源呢？Anna, are there any organizations that help with disaster recovery, and how can fire victims find these resources?
Well, yes, there are plenty of organizations of all kinds of different levels. Let me start with the biggest ones, with the federal ones. So, of course, there's FEMA. FEMA is the Federal Emergency Management Agency. They have small grants for necessities. They issue small grants for necessities, basically tiny subsidies. You have to apply for them. The earlier you apply, the better. They're supposed to also be providing subsidies for home repairs and disaster-related expenses. We know that FEMA has been tapped out quite a bit this year from other crises and other disasters. So again, the earlier you apply, the better chances that you actually get some money. There is Small Business Administration. They are supposed to be offering low interest loans to homeowners, renters, and businesses for building and recovery. There's also Department of Housing and Urban Development, the HUD. They provide housing services, counseling services, also disaster assistance program for temporary housing needs. Let me very briefly touch on something that is not specifically a resource, but important thing to remember. Landlords are prohibited from increasing the rent by more than 10% for the apartments that are already on the market. Right, so this is something to remember and to hopefully take advantage of. And like I discussed in another video, this sort of government stops on price increase sometimes creates shortages. So again, the sooner you apply, the better, because the apartment buildings and the landlords might be running out of stock with so many people displaced and looking for other kinds of accommodations. So additional resources, now going back to the actual resources, I'd say Salvation Army is always a good place to start. They usually have a good stock of food, clothing, all kinds of different items necessary for living. Local food banks for the food. I would say local churches as well, right? A lot of local centers, such as churches and community centers, are mobilizing their resources, and that might be the closest place to start. And then on the California level, there's California Office of Emergency Services. They're supposed to be mostly providing up-to-date information on shelters, evacuation orders, and recovery resources available. But again, that's pretty centralized. They might not have specific information to your location. So I would say places like Salvation Army locally are a good place to start.
好，今天非常感谢安娜律师给我们大家分享了这些非常实用的信息哈。对于受灾者来讲呢，了解这些资源可能就是恢复生活的重要一步。希望今天的节目可以帮助到大家了解更多的灾后恢复的资讯啊。Thank you so much, Anna, for sharing all this practical advice. These resources can be a very important step towards recovery. And stay tuned for more insight on recovery. Thank you, Anna. See you next time.
Thank you for having me. Take care.